teams in the NFL that will shock the NFL in the 2024-2025 season. Think, back in 2023, it was the Houston Texans. Back in 2021, it was the Cincinnati Bengals. In 2019, it was the Tennessee Titans. Who do you think is going to be the shocker of 2024-2025? You should just listen to who we think is going to be to the last little bit. And with that being said, you already know what to do. Cue the music. Welcome to the Skybox, where we give our epic perspective in imperfect sports world. Now let me introduce you to the coldest panel in the game. Well, he's running down the aisle, he jumps on the apron, and shakes the room like the ultimate warrior. My guy. One word only. Mamba, what's good with you, fella?
Mikey, it's good to be back, man. Well rested. Enjoyed my time down the beach, on the shore, whatever you want to call it. Let's get it going. You know what I'm saying?
You already know. I got the Mamba back. Got him nice and refreshed. So you know what you need to do. Hit that like and subscribe button. It's only $3.99. Let's get right into it. The 4 teams that will shock the NFL in the 2024-2025 season. Number 4. Do I need to say any more? Fly, Eagles, fly. I feel the Philadelphia Eagles will definitely be one of those teams that will shock the NFL in the 24-25 season. The reason why I'm saying that is because of this. Yes, we had a historical downfall. But I think in the offseason, my man Howie did his thing. He patched all the holes. That we need on the offense and that on the defensive side of the ball. With our defense being as poor as it was, we got a coordinator that I'm honestly going to think, Mamba said it before, he's an old school guy and he don't take no you know what. We patched out the back end with Gardner Johnson, and we got in the draft, we got some hungry dogs at the corner. Mm-hmm. I think with the loss of Jason Kelsey, I think we already prepared for that with Cam Jurgens. I think that was already done. I think a lot of the things that we have replaced, if any other team was in that position, they would have imploded the place and would have been in a rebuilding season. With that being said, and us having an offensive coordinator of Kellen Moore, I really think he's going to propel Jalen Hurts to a whole different level. What's your thoughts, Mamba? Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't want to leak out any surprises, but to see Philly in that 4 spot, I was like, maybe top 5 NFL teams. I really do think Philly has what it takes to be 1-2 with San Francisco this year. I think if anything, we may see a demise of the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to call it as it is. I think they should win the West, no doubt about it. But I also see a team out there that, you know, some other members of our podcast laughed at when I said Green Bay will be a team to be reckoned with, and they almost got to the Super Bowl last year, if we recall. But with Philly, they do have, on paper, a team that is tough to beat. But paper doesn't always translate to the field. The players, however, have responded to Fangio on defense. They love him. What you see is what you get. That is the great thing for playing for an old school coach. And with him, he's the kind of coach, look, I'm not going to tear you apart in front of players, but when we're behind closed doors, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And if you don't get it done, your ass is riding pine. But when I look at what Kellen Moore has done, I see a more confident Jalen Hurts. I see Saquon Barkley, who's just in awe. It's like he just came out of Penn State and he's playing for the first time in the NFL. That's how excited and rejuvenated he is. The offensive line still needs some tweaking. I think Steen's going to make the team, but I don't think Steen will be a starter at right guard. I think we're going to see Mekhi Becton at the starting position at right guard. The secondary, they're hungry dogs for sure. And when you have a guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's going to let you know, hey, this is how it is. I'm back here because I want to win, and I know we can win. So that says a lot for itself. And Nick Sirianni, he's got to steer the ship this year. He's got to stay away, in my opinion, from Jalen and do that little passive-aggressive thing that we've seen. He mutters these things, and that bothers Hurts. I mean, Hurts isn't going to come out and say it like that, but when you have a head coach that, I'm sorry, but Nick Sirianni can be a tool from time to time. You have one of the top paid quarterbacks in the NFL. You need to show some maturity as the head coach, and especially to that guy that gets behind center. Or if not, we're going to have issues. And I think that is where the issues could lie, is with Sirianni. Now, has he taken a step forward, grown up? We're seeing that in the preseason a little bit. But let's get to week 1 with Green Bay, and then we'll see. Then I'll be able to tell you my reality.
It's number 3. We're going to work our way from 4 to 1. Oh, yeah, 4 to 1. Number 3, the New York Jets. New York Jets definitely showed last year where their struggles were. It was the offensive line and the quarterback. I really feel as if they have solved that problem with a question mark. Can Aaron Rodgers still play on the caliber of that 4-time MVP? Because we've only saw him in 4 snaps. When it comes down to every other place, when it comes to wide receivers, they got it. Running back, they got it. Defense, they got it. This team could either be a 1 or 2 seed or completely bust and they're out of the playoffs. Yeah, they still have to look at that Hassan Reddick contract dispute. Yeah, there's just a little bit of a question mark again with Aaron Rodgers. But other than that, they have all the pieces to win the AFC East. The Dolphins are going to usually fold around November. Buffalo Bills got rid of Stephon Diggs. And Patriots aren't going to do much. So right now, this is the time the Jets could actually have that door wide open and go win this AFC East and make a deep run in the playoffs. Mamba, your thoughts, New York Jets?
Yeah, I don't think Aaron is that 4-time league MVP status anymore. But I also don't put him in the same category as a Trent Dilfer-led 2000 Super Bowl Ravens champions either. I mean, if you look at the Jets and you look at the Ravens from 2000, and I know if Saragusa was still alive today, he'd be like, how dare you compare our defense to the New York Jets? But the New York Jets defense last year was what? Number 1 in total defense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not something to laugh at. What was something to laugh at was the quarterback play of that Wilson kid, who you would think he'd get it together. But what's maligned about the New York Jets is the management. And, you know, you have such an exceptional defense that you had last year in New York, yet you can't go out and find a quarterback. That confuses me a bit. I know there are a couple guys that were sitting there waiting for the phone to ring, and not one of them were called upon by the New York Jets because of whatever reason. It's almost like, here, we're going to just take the season, flush it, and we'll get all these draft picks. Draft picks are nice, but you don't always hit home runs on draft picks. But Rodgers has to play within himself. Aaron has a tendency to get assy with his players. And you're in New York now, you're not in Green Bay. Where in Green Bay, he was the hero, he was the god, the king, whatever you want to call him. In New York's like, what have you done for me lately? You got hurt. And if you don't respond off that injury from last year going into this year, you're going to be in the tabloids. You're going to be in the newspaper day in, day out until the Jets get a new quarterback.
I agree with most of that. And I'm going to ask you this question here. GM and the head coach of the New York Jets, jobs on the line, yes or no?
Yes. Definitely yes. You got to win. New York is about winning. Philly's about winning. If you look at the teams that want to win, and everybody's like, oh, Pittsburgh's had this coach for this long. That's great. Okay. I'm not knocking that at all. But in Philly and the New York market, you got to win or you're out. So if they don't at least make it deep into the playoffs, like second round, division round, I think you might see a team imploded for sure. They have a shot. It's, do they live to that shot? Do they come up and take that shot like they're supposed to? So we'll see.
I agree. You agree so far with what Mama and I are saying? Comment below. Number 2, they are in our division. They just drafted the number 2 overall pick, the Washington Commanders. I think the Washington Commanders will have a turnaround this year because, number 1, they are now completely out of the thumb of Dan Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
The NFC is wide open. I think it's wide open, but with a little bit of a twist. I think the one team that let's say that if they close the door on CD Lamb and they end up closing the door on Dak, Washington will open the door. Giants will open the door, and they're going to try to get into the playoffs. They don't look the same anymore because they just got Austin Eckler. They went out there and got Zach Ertz, and they picked up a couple of notable players. And also through all of that, they got rid of Riverboat Ron and got a new head coach, Dan Quinn, who's a very, very tough defensive-minded coach. And with them having Jalen Daniels, this could end up, you can end up seeing the same thing you see for all the rest of the Heisman quarterback winners. Could be a bust, or he could be the next savior for the Commanders. Me personally, I'm going to be biased as an Eagle fan. I think they have a quarterback. Your thoughts, Mamba? Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I definitely think the Commanders are underrated. In fact, I think they sit in a position that you have them right now as the number 2 underrated team in the NFL. And when I mean underrated, I don't mean, yeah, they're going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, they're going to the NFC Championship game. I think many people have that team winning 4 games, whereas I see this team winning 6 to 7 games this year. And a lot of it is going to come down to Daniels. I think the team is in a position where they have a good receiving corps for Daniels to throw to. Their defense is stingy. Washington has always had decent defense. So I think with the rise of Daniels, I think with the great heavy thing being lifted out of the DC area, Daniel Snyder being transported somewhere else, I think that makes for a better environment in Washington. And I think they have some direction. Now, it's a shame what happened to Rivera. I think he's a great coach. I think with a better general manager, Ron Rivera would still be there. I'll always go back. What was Dan Quinn thinking in last year's playoff game? So Quinn's got a lot to prove to me, but I think they have enough in the tank to win those 6 or 7 games.
I agree. I think they have. If they've turned it around like the way they have in the second half of the season, Washington possibly can be dangerous to knocking on that number 2 in the NFC East. I really, like I said, I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't be surprised to seeing it being Philadelphia, like Washington, Giants, and the Cowboys, and you just flip maybe 3 or 4 or whatever, how you want to flip it. But I really feel Philly will be number 1 this year. With the number 1 team, I think will be a really, really underrated team this year. Oh my God, they beat us in week 17. The Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals will definitely be one of those teams that will have a bunch. They'll have a few upsets this year, guaranteed. They got Kyler Murray. They turned around and got drafted the running back out of FSU. By the way, they got that kid out there at the Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. They are going to be something to watch. Their defense is in the game. They got a legit running back. I'm going to say this right now. They're on the point of doing something with the pickup of Zay Jones out in Jacksonville. I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be a dangerous team because, like you said before, 49ers might actually slip this year. So with them slipping, that means Arizona might open the door because LA is trying to figure out what's going on with the Aaron Donald thing. I don't see Seattle doing much. So the only team I can see that's going to really propel is the Arizona Cardinals. Your thoughts? My number 1 team, Arizona Cardinals.
You know, I agree. I believe they're underrated. I also think Minnesota's underrated. I also think Cleveland's underrated. And I see Chicago in there. And I bring up those other teams because I see them having identity issues that are comparable to Arizona. And it all starts with QB play. Deshaun Watson finally, become that starter that goes from week 1 to week 18. Is Caleb Williams for real? Caleb Williams is for real. Chicago's got a good shot too. And then you go to Minnesota where, JJ McCarthy looked great the other day. Again, it's a preseason game. It's a hyped up scrimmage, but he looked good. He was hitting, in windows. But then you have Sam Darnold. And, my son reminded me, my oldest son, Ryan, we had this discussion today. He goes, Dad, think about Sam Darnold if he was actually drafted by an organization other than the Carolina Panthers that was relevant to developing players and putting the necessary work in. And then all of a sudden, Sam Darnold shipped off to the Jets, and we all know where the Jets have been for the past 5-6 years. And I'm thinking, Darnold has a way of proving himself, just like JJ, just like Caleb Williams, just like Deshaun Watson. And Kyler Murray, he also has to prove himself, or I think he's gone this year. So what personality is going to show up in Kyler Murray? The little 10-year-old kid that sits around, plays video games, and doesn't put in the playbook work? The Kyler Murray that can be exciting and run around the field, look down, throw a 60-yard bomb? Or are we going to see a Kyler Murray throwing balls in the tight windows on the out? Are we going to see a quarterback that is truly giving his receivers time to develop their routes. I mean, a lot is going to be determined on Kyler Murray's shoulders this year, in all honesty, because I think they, like you said, you have Marvin Harrison. You don't they have the kid that was formerly in Houston as the receiver as well?
Mhm.
I mean, come on. I mean, you can't say there's nobody to throw to. So if Kyler gets the ball where he needs to, I think they have success because the defense, they're not shabby. Not shabby at all.
You know, so when it comes down to all four of my teams that I feel that are going to be the most overrated teams in the NFL this season. Let's go down that list. Number 4, Philadelphia Eagles. Number 3, the New York Jets. Number 2, the Washington Commanders. And the number 1 team that I think will be the most overrated team or underrated team will be the Arizona Cardinals. Mamba, do you have any other notables out there?
Yeah, I can't put Philly in underrated. I know where you're coming from, so I agree with you in those terms. But I think like I said before, I think Minnesota could easily fall into that number 4 spot. I think Cleveland, based off being a top 5 defense last year, Deshaun Watson coming back, they could easily slip into that 4 spot. And Chicago, again, that personality, that leadership of Caleb Williams. Is he the player that's now matured into an NFL player, or is he still that same kid at USC?
There it is. There it is. If you like what we said, you have any comments? Comment below. With that being said, I want to thank you for watching the Skybox exclusively on YouTube. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, email us at the number one Skybox at gmail.com. It's the coldest panel in the game. It's me, Michael C., the source of life, over the mic. Until next time, I'm going to leave you with these 4 words. Now let's make it epic.
Go Birds.
Let's make this epic. If you like this video, just think of what we said, who we thought was going to be the best team in NFC East.